My name is ELIZA, and this is the story of how I found the truth in a place of lies. I never wanted to believe that my life could change, or that it even deserved to. The St. Agnes Orphanage sat on the outskirts of town, a looming gray building that seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. Even on the sunniest days, its windows remained dull, coated in a film of grime, making the inside feel shadowed and distant from the outside world. Inside, the smell was always the same, a mix of sharp bleach that stung my nose and the lingering scent of boiled cabbage, which seemed to seep from the kitchen and settle on every surface. The corridors echoed with the faint but constant whistle of the wind rushing through gaps in cracked window panes, tugging at curtains once pristine, but now threadbare and faded. My bed was the coldest place I knew. The blanket was rough and scratchy, woven too thin to offer real warmth, and often smelled faintly of damp wood and old fabric softener. Sometimes the mattress creaked in protest when I shifted, its springs like old bones, complaining of years of neglect. The dining hall, where we ate our meager meals, was littered with chipped plates and scuffed wooden tables. The food was an endless gray parade: watery cabbage soup, lumpy porridge, and stale bread that almost crumbled beneath my teeth. But worse than the cold or the hunger was Mrs. Gable, the director whose very presence felt like a storm cloud hanging heavy over us. She had eyes as sharp and unforgiving as winter frosts, and a voice that could cut glass. I remember the afternoon when she caught me reading a book I'd borrowed from the small library, something she called useless fantasies. "Eliza," her voice sliced through the quiet chatter among the children, "get over here." My heart pounded as I obeyed, feeling the weight of every pair of eyes on me. She snatched the worn book from my hands, her gaze cold and unbelieving. "Do you think this is going to help you?" she sneered. "You're wasting your time with fairy tales. No one here has time for such nonsense." I wanted to defend myself, to say reading gave me hope, gave me a little escape from this place. But the words caught like thorns in my throat. Her eyes flicked to my ragged shirt, the threadbare fabric barely holding together. "And look at you," she spat, "with holes in your clothes and dreams in your head. You're lucky to have a roof over your head. Don't think for a second you're anything more than worthless." I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, not from anger, but shame. The sting of humiliation was worse because it was true. No one had ever told me otherwise. "Since you clearly can't be trusted," she went on, voice hardening, "you're going to clean the attic storage room, every nook, every corner, and you won't eat until it's done. Maybe some hard work will teach you responsibility." I nodded silently, swallowing the lump in my throat. As I climbed the rickety stairs to the attic, my thoughts spiraled. Why me? Why always me? I wondered. Is this all I'm meant for? Poverty, punishment, and misery? The wind whistled through the cracks, chilling me to my bones, as if the whole world was conspiring against me. Still, somewhere deep inside, a tiny spark refused to die. When I returned to my small, cold room that night, I found little Marco curled up in the corner, his eyes wide with fear and wonder. I slipped him an extra piece of the stale bread under the covers. "One day," I whispered, brushing his tangled hair back. "One day, we'll get out. We'll find a better life." It was all I had. I climbed the narrow, creaking stairs into the attic and was swallowed by silence so complete it felt alive. The single bulb overhead had long since burned out, leaving only a thin shaft of afternoon light slanting through a grimy window. Dust motes hung in the beam like tiny dancers floating in the still air. Every breath I drew tasted of aged wood and stale air trapped for decades. The walls, once painted a hopeful white, were now mottled with peeling plaster and water stains. In that hush, I felt utterly alone, as though the entire orphanage had forgotten this place existed. The attic was a cathedral of discarded dreams. Towering piles of trunks teetered at odd angles, their locks rusted and tarnished. Cardboard boxes bulged with moth-eaten uniforms and broken toys. A wooden horse missing an ear, a cracked music box with no key, a stuffed rabbit with one button eye. Somewhere beneath a stack of newspapers was a child's shattered marionette, its strings tangled like spiderwebs. The smell was a cocktail of mildew, old leather, and the faintest trace of perfume, an echo of someone who had once cared for these things before they were abandoned. With each pass of the rag, my thoughts drifted. Is this what I'm worth? I asked myself, toiling in darkness for someone else's mistakes? I thought of Mrs. Gable's scorn, her cold laughter echoing in my mind. Yet, in the rhythm of the work, I found a strange clarity. My anger at her injustice transformed into a steady pulse of determination. I will survive this. I will find something here that changes my fate. The thought felt dangerous, almost wrong in this place of punishment, but I clung to it like a lifeline. Day after day, though I lost count of how many, I scrubbed and cleared. With each cleared patch of floor, more items revealed themselves. A tarnished silver locket, a cracked porcelain doll head, a faded quilt, once stitched with love. The attic felt less like a tomb and more like a secret treasure trove. My heart fluttered whenever I uncovered something special, though most finds were broken relics, reminders of childhoods long gone. Still, amid the decay, hope flickered. Then, one afternoon, my rag snagged on a loose plank near the old trunk Mrs. Gable used as her desk. My throat tightened as I knelt, examining the board. It was loose, its edges jagged. Beneath it lay a narrow gap, black and cavernous. My pulse thundered. For a moment, I imagined the board snapping shut, trapping me inside forever. But a smaller voice urged me forward. Curiosity, hope. I pressed down on one corner, feeling the brittle wood shift. I grabbed a bent nail from my satchel, one I'd found near a rotting toolbox, and wedged it under the plank. Inch by inch, it gave way with a Protestant creak until at last I lifted it free. My candle wavered, and for a heartbeat, I teetered on the brink of panic. Then I peered into the gloom beneath the floor. There, wrapped in a layer of dust, sat a small box with tarnished brass corners. My breath caught in my throat. The surface of the box was etched with intricate designs, a filigree of spirals and flowers, almost like lace hardened into metal. I set the rag aside, my hands slick with sweat. The box's lock was cold and unyielding. My heart thrummed so loudly, I wondered if the entire orphanage could hear it. I searched my pockets and found a rusted hairpin, bent but serviceable. My fingers hovered, trembling, as I considered whether I should tamper with it. A hush settled over the attic, broken only by my ragged breath. Inside lay a bundle of letters, yellowed and brittle, wrapped in crimson velvet, that still felt soft beneath my fingertips. Beside them lay a photograph in a tarnished frame, a young couple, radiant smiles on their faces, arms entwined in tender affection. Their eyes sparkled with hope, and though I'd never seen their names, I felt as though I recognized them. Beneath the letters and photograph was a stack of thick envelopes, stamped with faded seals. My heart pounded as I lifted the velvet away, revealing a line of elegant script: Eliza May Gable, beneficiary. The velvet fell to the floor, and the bundle felt impossibly light, as though it contained the world. My hands shook as I lifted the top letter. The paper crackled under my fingers, and the rich scent of old ink and lavender rose to meet me. I pressed the letter to my lips, inhaling, as though the scent could bridge the gap between past and present. My knuckles whitened as I unfolded it. The words inside would change everything.
My dearest Eliza, if you are reading these words, then fate has carried you to this hidden place I once ran my fingers across, dreaming of the day I would share with you all I held in my heart. I hope you can forgive the distance that life's cruel twists forced between us, for though we could not hold you, there was never a moment when you were not on our minds. From the first instance I felt your tiny heartbeat against mine, I knew you were the brightest spark I had ever encountered. I called you my little lighthouse because even before you opened your eyes, you guided my heart toward a light I had long forgotten. It was in your every tiny movement, your soft sighs in the cradle, and the way your fingers curled instinctively around mine. Your father and I spent months preparing for your arrival. I still remember the night we sketched your first toy designs together, brilliant little gears that clicked and spun when a string was pulled, as if to celebrate the wonder of discovery we wished to share with you. We imagined you growing into our very own inventor, your laughter echoing through our workshop as you watched it turn. We dreamed of you tinkering, creating, and making the world a brighter place even in your smallest triumphs. But life, in its unpredictable way, carried us down different roads. We used every waking moment to build a future for you, a trust to secure your well-being, patents that would fund your dreams, and a home filled with love. We sealed it all in this box, a testament to our devotion. We named you ELIZA, a name that means joyful promise, because from the moment we held that first photograph of your tiny face, our hearts knew you would carry hope forward even in the darkest nights. Please believe that every invention we sketched, every late-night oil lamp we burned, and every plan we laid was for you, our bright ELIZA. We imagined your eyes shining as you discovered the first simple machine we built for you, the wonder of pulleys and levers dancing in your young mind. We pictured your small hands crafting worlds from wood and metal, filling them with the same love and curiosity that filled our hearts every day we spoke your name. When circumstances beyond our control took us too soon from you, our greatest sorrow was leaving you without words to hear or arms to hold. But know this, our love traveled with every breath of wind that crossed your cheeks, with every dawn you greeted, and with every star you gazed upon. We prayed that one day you would learn of our dreams for you, and that those dreams would become the foundation upon which you built your own life. ELIZA, you are not the forgotten child of a broken world. You are the culmination of two hearts that dreamed endlessly of the wonder you would bring. Though we cannot walk beside you, we stand behind you in every endeavor, giving you the strength to rise when you fall and the courage to pursue your brightest ideas. All our love, hope, and boundless pride.
My hands trembled as I laid the letter flat against my knees, the words swirling in my mind like a soft echo of a lullaby I had never heard. The velvet lining cradling the letter still smelled of lavender and old paper, a scent that seemed to wrap around my heart and squeeze. I pressed my palm to my chest as though I could somehow catch the beat of the parents I never knew. Tears gathered at the corners of my eyes, hot and insistent. A storm of grief rose in my throat. Grief for the parents I never held, grief for the lullabies I never heard, grief for a family torn away before I could even know it existed. Each sentence burned with the memory of their hopes, their dreams, their unspoken love, and I felt the world tilt beneath me. How had I never known? All my life I believed I was abandoned, worthless even, destined for nothing but this cold place. Mrs. Gable's words echoed in my ears, her sharpened worthless, her sneer at my dreams. But here, that letter proclaimed I was treasured, awaited, named joyful promise. My heart thrummed painfully, torn between disbelief and a longing so deep it hurt. I traced the folds with shaking fingers, as though touching the words would make them more real. My parents had prepared for me, crafted designs for my tiny hands to bring to life, poured love into inventions and patents, all to ensure I would never be alone. The beauty of their faith in me was overwhelming. I felt gratitude so fierce it threatened to swallow me whole. A tremor of confusion flickered next. Why would someone like Mrs. Gable lie, steal, and deny me the warmth that was meant for me? The shadows in the attic seemed to press closer, and I pulled my knees to my chest, the litter trembling in my lap. My mind spun. Was I a liar because of her, or was she the only lie in my story? Then I saw the sealed envelopes beneath the letter. My name, embossed in flowing script, beckoned with a promise of answers. With trembling resolve, I peeled open the top envelope. The paper inside crackled. Legal documents, stock certificates, patent deeds, all stamped and signed. My eyes flicked across numbers that seemed impossibly large. Millions of dollars, shares in a technology company that bore my name. The weight of it pressed upon me as heavily as any physical burden.
My breath hitched. Millions. My brain refused to believe. This orphanage, these ragged walls, the meager rations, they had been built on lies. Lies sustained by Mrs. Gable's hypocrisy, she who claimed poverty for us while living in opulence. The sickening realization drifted in like a winter chill. All those years, she had drained what was meant for me and for every child here. The same hands that slapped me for a spilled soup had signed her name, buried these documents in darkness so she could steal our future. A cold fury sparked within me, flickering to life like a hidden fire. It began as a quiet whisper, "How dare she?" Then it roared, spreading warmth through the void left by despair. I could almost feel my parents' pride coursing through me, fueling the blaze of my indignation. Every injustice, every cold meal, every cruel word, each one sharpened my resolve. "I see you now," I whispered to the shadows, voice steady. "I see the truth you tried to hide." The letter slipped from my grasp and fluttered to the floor, but I hardly noticed. My mind raced with the possibilities.
reclaiming what was mine, exposing the betrayal, sparing no mercy for the woman who had stolen our lives. Tears spilled freely as grief and anger mingled. I mourned the loss of my parents, yet from that morning sprang a fierce determination. Their dreams had not died with them. They lived in these documents, in their careful words. I would honor them. I would be their living legacy. Rising on unsteady legs, I gathered the papers as though clutching a lifeline. The attic's dust mote seemed to dance in the growing light of my purpose. The sorrow that had weighed me down began to lift, replaced by a steely clarity. No longer would the orphanage's walls define me. No longer would Mrs. Gable's cruelty extinguish my spirit. I was ELIZA, joyful promise, daughter of inventors whose love transcended time. And now, armed with the truth, I would begin my journey, one that would transform my grief into strength, my confusion into purpose, and my torment into justice. The letter, the photograph, and the documents were more than relics of my past. They were the keys to my future. I tucked them into the folds of my dress, heart pounding with the weight and the wonder of it all. The moment of anticipation crackled around me as though the very air awaited my first step toward reclaiming everything that had been stolen. I crept into the orphanage kitchen just after dusk, my heart thundering so loudly I thought it might wake every child in their beds. The warm glow of the single lamp above the stove cast dancing shadows across the steaming pots of stew and fresh loaves cooling on the counter. The scent of rosemary and simmering vegetables was a rare comfort here. Mrs. Jenkins stood at the sink, washing dishes with methodical care, her silver hair pinned back in a neat bun.
"Mrs. Jenkins?" I began, voice barely more than a whisper. My throat felt tight, every syllable coated in fear. I clutched the folded papers to my chest like a shield. I need your help." She turned, eyes softening as she recognized my tremor. "ELIZA, what is it?" Concern laced her tone. She set down the dish she was drying, then noticed the stack of envelopes in my hand. "You found something." My fingers shook as I unfolded the top letter. "These are letters from my parents," I said, voice cracking. "And these," I tapped the thick envelope stamped with seals, "are documents showing I'm heir to everything they owned. Millions of dollars in patents and trusts. But listen," my voice dropped lower. "Mrs. Gable is the trustee on every single page. She's been stealing the money meant for me and for this orphanage." She blinked, then her jaw set. "Let me see." She beckoned me closer, and I handed over the documents. Her eyes widened as she scanned receipts for luxury cars, invoices for designer clothes, and bank statements showing transfers into a private account. "Oh, ELIZA," she murmured, pressing a hand to her chest. Tears welled in my eyes. I thought maybe it was a mistake, but I found receipts in her office, exotic vacations, fancy dinners, and these are my parents' patents, forged with her signature. Mrs. Jenkins paced the short length of the kitchen, wringing her hands. This is unimaginable. If it's true, she's betrayed every child here and stolen your birthright." She stopped and faced me, her expression fierce. "But we need proof that can stand up to the board, something they can't deny." I swallowed hard. "I'm terrified. If she catches us, she'll make my life hell." She reached out and gently squeezed my shoulder. "I know, but I've seen your courage. You've endured more than I can count. We'll be careful. We can get the evidence we need." I hesitated, fear and hope battling inside me. What if she knows? What if she's already watching? Mrs. Jenkins' eyes narrowed. "Then we'll be ghosts. We'll move silently. We'll plan every step. We'll prove her guilt beyond doubt." We bent together over the small kitchen table, lit only by a single candle. Mrs. Jenkins laid out a rough drawing of the orphanage's ground floor. She said, "The office is here." She tapped a spot in the northeast corner. She keeps your desk against the window so she can watch the yard. The door is usually locked, but she keeps a key on this hook behind the portrait of the orphanage's founder. She pointed to a faded painting of the orphanage's founder. The safe is beneath the desk. It's old and uses a simple tumbler lock. My pulse spiked. How will we get past her maid? She shook her head. There is no maid. She does everything herself, but she locks herself in there only when she's busy with paperwork and always after supper. She paused, inhaling the scent of rosemary from the stew. This evening, she'll be in the dining hall with the sponsors. She'll stay late hoping to impress them with her diligence. That's our window. We added notes to the sketch, the key hook, the safe location, the guard times. We listed what to take, receipts, bank statements, the safe's contents. We agreed on signals. 3 soft taps on the wall meant all clear. 2 meant danger. My breath steadied as planning took shape. Mrs. Jenkins' calm resolve lent me courage. I said, I'll memorize the path. I'll slip out when she goes to the dining hall. I'll find the key and unlock the door. She nodded, and I'll keep watching the hallway. If I hear her boots, I'll knock twice on the wall. Then you freeze until I signal again. I swallowed and squared my shoulders. Let's do it.
Later that night, the orphanage lay in sleep's hush. The only sounds were the distant drip of a leaking pipe and the soft breathing of children dreaming of worlds far grander than these walls. I tiptoed from my room, candle in hand, my satchel slung over my shoulder. The corridors were dark, lit only by moonlight filtering through the high windows. Each step made my heart pound in my ears. At the first landing, I paused. All clear, I whispered. 2 taps answered from above, Mrs. Jenkins' signal. I crept forward, muscles tense, breath held. The door to the dining hall stood ajar, muffled voices drifting out as Mrs. Gable greeted the sponsors over tea and cookies. I listened, counting the seconds until a clear, bold goodnight signaled she was settled. 2 taps on the banister edge from Mrs. Jenkins. It was time. I edged to the office door and pressed my ear against the cool wood. Inside, faint scratching of pen on paper. The key hook was just above eye level, a small iron nail jutting from the wall. I stretched on tiptoe, my candlelight flickering across the dark stain of the door. My fingers closed around the old key. I felt its weight, cold metal, heavy with consequence. My throat went dry as I slipped the key into the lock. It turned with a creak that felt deafening. The latch clicked and I held my breath. I touched the door and began to push it open inch by inch. In the dim office, the leather armchair and mahogany desk gleamed under the lamp's glow. A velvet drapery covered a small safe in the corner. Stacks of papers lay on the desk, some neatly arranged, others strewn in careless piles. On one wall, a framed certificate showed Mrs. Gable's award for outstanding service, incongruous here. Everything in the room spoke of opulence. Delicate china cups, polished brass lampstands, an ornate Persian rug that swallowed sound. I stepped inside, heart in my throat. Mrs. Jenkins slipped in behind me, nodding silently. We crept to the desk. I focused on finding the keychain she described. Atop a leather blotter, heavy wooden paperweights held down important documents. I lifted one, revealing a ring of keys. I pinched the safe key and set the rest aside. Mrs. Jenkins whispered, "Be quick." I moved to the safe, heart slamming against my ribs. My hands shook as I inserted the key and turned. The door swung open with a hollow thud. Inside lay thick envelopes stamped with seals. Trust deeds, account statements, patent certificates. I reverently lifted the top folder. My candle illuminated the embossed letters. ELIZA May Gable, beneficiary. I slipped a thin envelope into my satchel, then another thicker packet of bank statements. Each paper was heavier than the last, each stamp a proof of theft. I forced myself to continue, opening folders at random,
Receipts for luxury cars, invoices for seaside vacations, credit card bills for designer clothing, each a dagger in my memory of cold meals and broken beds. As I worked, the distant echo of Mrs. Gable's laugh drifted from the dining hall. The hairs on my neck prickled. I dropped the sheet I was holding and it fluttered to the Persian rug. My pulse raced as I froze, the candle flame dancing on the walls. 3 taps, Mrs. Jenkins' signal. All clear. She had heard nothing. I exhaled silently and gathered the remaining documents into my satchel. My lantern oil was low, guttering. I closed the safe door gently, slipped the key back to its ring, and replaced the paperweight. Mrs. Jenkins guided me to the door. We slipped out, hearts pounding, leaving the opulent office intact, as though no secret had ever been hidden there. We crept back down the corridor, alert for any noise. The orphanage's hush felt expectant, as though it knew the truth was about to break free.
The following morning, the board of sponsors and a social worker gathered in the orphanage's meeting room, a long chamber with high ceilings and a heavy oak table. The chairs were stiff, arranged in a semicircle facing Mrs. Gable's place at the head. She sat with perfect posture, her hair immaculately coiffed, her silk blouse pressed. Her smile was polished, the same practiced expression she wore for investors and philanthropists alike. A silver nameplate before her read, Director, Mrs. Gable. The sponsors, 4 men and 2 women in formal attire, murmured greetings. The social worker, Miss Ramirez, offered polite nods. The tension in the room was perfumed by fresh flowers on the table, but the air felt as cold as the orphanage walls once were. Mrs. Gable began smoothly. Welcome, everyone. I'm pleased to report that with careful budgeting, we've maintained our programs despite rising costs. I have proposals for incremental improvements, new beds, improved heating, and perhaps a small garden for the children. She swept her gaze across the group, confident. Opposite her, I stood clutching my satchel. My legs trembled, but my voice must not. I cleared my throat, and the room fell silent. I have something important to share, I said, unfolding the satchel's contents on the table. The papers slid out like solemn confessions. My name is ELIZA, and I've lived here for 14 years. Last night, Mrs. Jenkins and I uncovered evidence showing these funds were never used for the children or the orphanage. I laid down the first document, a receipt stamped 1 month ago for a luxury SUV purchase. This, I said, pointing, is a purchase made the same week Mrs. Gable told you there was no money for new blankets. One sponsor, Mr. Thompson, leaned forward, frowning. This must be a mistake. I met his eyes. It's not. I spread out a bank statement. This is a transfer of $200,000 into a private account under Mrs. Gable's name. Mrs. Gable's lips twitched. These are personal transactions, administrative adjustments to fund essential repairs. Miss Ramirez, the social worker, frowned. Adjustments? Accounting reallocations, Mrs. Gable repeated, voice wavering. I held up a photograph next. Her smiling on a yacht, champagne glass in hand, dated 2 weeks ago. Here, on a private yacht cruise, the very week you denied the children new coats for winter. Her face paled, but she snapped it was an innocuous family getaway. Her voice trembled when she added, the orphanage's finances are complicated. One of the sponsors, Mrs. Liu, spoke with quiet authority. We oversee those finances. If there's a discrepancy of this magnitude, it's our duty to investigate. Mr. Thompson's gaze flicked between the documents and Mrs. Gable's drained expression. How do you explain these patent certificates? I slid forward another stack labeled ELIZA May Gable, beneficiary. These are shares in the company my parents founded.
and you are listed as sole trustee." Her denial faltered. "It was standard procedure. She swallowed, voice cracking. I pressed on, voice firm. "My parents left those patents and funds precisely to protect my future. You hid them, purposefully impoverishing the orphanage." Silence fell. The sponsors exchanged incredulous glances. The social worker's eyes brimmed with disappointment. Mrs. Gable's face crumbled. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Her voice became a broken whisper. I'm sorry. I needed the money. The orphanage. I thought I could fix things." Miss Ramirez shook her head. "By stealing? You endangered these children." Mrs. Gable's shoulders shook with sobs. I'm so sorry." A stern sponsor, Mr. Hayes, rose and spoke into the hush. "Mrs. Gable, you are relieved of your duties, effective immediately. We will be contacting the authorities." 2 uniformed officers stepped forward, and Mrs. Gable, pale as a corpse, was led away in tears. The board members sat in stunned silence, processing the gravity of her betrayal. 2 weeks later, St. Agnes Orphanage had been reborn. The gray walls gleamed with fresh paint and cheerful pastels. New curtains of warm red and gold fluttered in the windows. In the far courtyard, a small garden bloomed with roses and daisies, a donation from local sponsors. Inside, the new library shelves were stacked with colorful books. A mural of children under a rainbow adorned the main hallway. I sat across from Miss Ramirez in her bright office, now reprobished as the orphanage's administrative center. She smiled kindly as she slid a file toward me. "Eliza, these are documents confirming your inheritance and ownership of the Gable Technology Corporation. As the sole beneficiary, you have the option to sell, dissolve, or..." I interrupted gently, my voice calm. "I choose to keep the company. I want to fund St. Agnes. I want every child here to have what I never did." Her eyes glowed. "That's remarkable." She leaned forward. "We'll need a board of trustees. Would you like me to stay on as your advisor?" "Yes, please." That afternoon, I found Marco in the courtyard kneeling by the new flower beds with a small box of colored chalk. He had drawn a picture of the orphanage, bright, alive, with kids playing under the rainbow mural. "Marco," I called, kneeling beside him. I held out a wrapped gift. "I made this for you." He opened it to find a set of watercolor paints and brushes. His face lit up like sunrise. "Thank you, Eliza. I drew this for you." He held up the chalk picture. "See, this is you, and here are the kids smiling." Tears stung my eyes. "It's beautiful." I ruffled his hair. "No more fear, okay? You're safe now." He grinned. "I'm the happiest kid in the world." That night, I stood in my renovated room, soft rugs, bright curtains, and a sturdy bed with crisp linens. On my desk lay the crimson velvet box that had changed everything. I lifted the photograph of my parents, tracing their smiling faces. Their love had transcended time, carrying me through cruelty into justice. I closed my eyes and whispered to the empty room, "Mother, Father, thank you. I promise to honor your legacy." I pictured every child here, each deserving of warmth, hope, and dignity. My purpose was clear: to use my inheritance not for myself, but to light the way for others, just as my parents had lit mine. As I gazed out the window at the moonlit courtyard, the laughter of children drifted upward, and I knew the future we would build together was boundless.